Wonderful. Thank you all so much for joining us. My name is Allie Thomas, the Executive Director for Inmates to Entrepreneurs. We are in week 3 of our 8-week course. As a reminder, if you're having trouble hearing, seeing, if your screen freezes up for whatever reason during the class, the easiest way to troubleshoot that would be to just completely exit this meeting and then come back using the same link or the same phone number, however you got into the meeting originally. Once we start, we can't really troubleshoot. I know I've gotten a couple of messages from people who weren't sure if they were hearing correctly or seeing things. So exit the meeting, come back. It's the easiest way to kind of troubleshoot that initially. Also, if you can make sure that your username is your actual name, that would be super helpful. That is how we track your attendance moving forward. If you just have your first name, if you could at least give me your last initial. I've got several of the same names. I've got like multiple Kins and multiple Joshes and multiple Andrews. So if you could just tell me you're like Andrew S or Andrew N, that would be super helpful for me. If you don't know how to change your name, you can throw it in the chat. If that doesn't work, please feel free to email me. I will confirm that I've got your attendance and we'll all be good there. The only other thing I have, I'm trying to keep this fast so we can jump into it. We do have Josh and Nadav back with us from last week. We also have Marco. Marco's been with Inmates Entrepreneurs for several years as well. Instructors, I'm going to make you all co-hosts. If you could please introduce or reintroduce yourselves, and then whenever you're ready for the PowerPoint, please just let me know.
Hello and welcome back, everyone. A big welcome to Ken Lofton, who I believe is another returning program participant. Please just correct me if I was wrong on that, Ken. And I don't know how on earth I remember this sort of stuff. I'm actually kind of happy that I can. Anyway, welcome back, everyone. Inmates to Entrepreneurs. It is my privilege and honor to be sharing some time here with Nadav and Marco. I'm Josh Nowak. I'm co-founder of Breaking Free Industries. We are a shirt printing business based here in Southern California, but more than producing amazing swag, we also only hire previously incarcerated folks, which gives me a little extra motivation to do what I do. With that, I want to turn it over to Nadav Mayer, and let's hear what he does, besides take up valuable oxygen in Texas.
Yeah, I'm still taking up valuable oxygen and kicking. Hello, everybody. I'm very stoked to have Marco joining us today. Josh, I'm always stoked to have you. But Marco, we've missed. We haven't had Marco. So this is a classic trio. The three of us teaching is always fills our buckets. So we're stoked that we can be together. But again, I'm Nadav Mayer, 15 years of entrepreneurship experience before I became an academic lecturer, Texas A&M University. The same content that we bring you for free. Privileged students at Texas A&M University are paying $100 an hour to get this, at least $100 an hour. So just this is the value quantifiable of what you guys are getting from us. And it's the same stuff we're talking about, believe it or not. So very stoked to be here. Marco, tell us all about you and all the Marco life updates we're missing.
No, it's great to see you both, Nadav and Josh. Hi, everybody. Great to meet you. My name is Marco Bertorello. I'm based out of Phoenix, Arizona. Like Allie said, I've been with Inmates Entrepreneurs for a couple years now. My background is actually in more of like the software tech space. I started a mortgage tech company before this, and then now I'm the co-founder of a company called Wedley, where we help wedding couples find and rent backyard wedding venues. But also too, I've been coaching my youngest brother on a heater rental company. He does like event rentals for weddings and other events too. So that's like a fun business that's top of mind for me as well right now. Super easy to start, and he's been crushing it. So yeah, great to be here with you all. I love sales too, so this will be a fun class tonight. Excited to be here.
Amazing. So how many weekends a year in Phoenix do you get to rent heaters, right?
It's actually, so it's a crazy business. It's like probably like a 5 or 6 month business, but he crushes it because nobody in Phoenix like is used to like cold weather. So when you can run it hard for 6 months and make a ton of money and then take 6 months off is kind of what his plan is right now. So
amazing.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing with that, Nadav, is that when you live in a warm weather climate, the definition of cold is very, very different. Very, very different. So,
Especially
like, for example,
desert cold too. Desert cold will bite you a little bit. So
yeah, because I can imagine on some of those desert, like on once you get past the hotter months, if you've got, say, 80 degrees during the day and it's 60 overnight or 50 overnight, that just screams opportunity. And we would get some of that over here where we'll have nice, really balmy days, and then come evening, 55 degrees isn't so cold, but to have an outdoor wedding, it's a little chilly.
It's great. It just sounds like a selling ice to the Eskimos kind of business, right? Just has that ring.
that's what it
Even
is.
even Eskimos need ice, dude.
Absolutely.
All righty. Last time we had extraordinary participation. For some people, I did not jot down who didn't get to share, who wanted to.
There
But
were some folks that really wanted to share and did not get a chance to. And there could also be some returning folks who worked on their script that want to share.
So yeah, if we can get some hands up, put it in the chat box, I'll start kind of keeping a log here of who wants to share all that. But let's do some elevator pitches. Remember that a good elevator pitch is going to tell you who you are, what is it that you do, ideally something kind of cheeky or clever about your business, who are you servicing, and more importantly, where you at, and then lastly, how do I get hold of you? So if you take back a few minutes ago, I said my name is Josh Nowak. I work for Breaking Free Industries. We provide apparel and swag and things like that. More than that, we also are returning citizens. I mentioned that I am operating out of Southern California, and on socials, you can find us at Breaking Free BFI. So now you've got a sense of, hey, I like what you have to say. I have a way to follow up with you. I know what you do. Certain businesses are pretty locally driven. So if I'm in a certain geographic area, like if I'm doing house cleaning, I'm going to be pretty hyper local. I'm going to be pretty driven of being, hey, if I live in Orange County, California, I'm not working the Bay Area. Heck, I'm not probably going to leave the county. But on the shirt printing side, I can go all over. So anyway, that said, let's hear from Ken, who got his hand up there first.
Hey, Josh.
Hey, great to see you again.
Great to see you, man. I kept my elevator pitch kind of short and sweet, but
Cool.
I said, hey, I'm Kenny Lofton. I'm the owner of Essentials of Yahweh. Essentials of Yahweh is a brilliant company that specializes in international merchandising and retail. We offer most new trending products such as innovative phone chargers, doorbell cameras, LED lighting, much more. Maybe that you can get your hands on. Hopefully I can. My products can be found on Amazon Prime, Shopify, Facebook Marketplace, or you can just email me at kenlofton20@gmail.com.
That wasn't your old business though, right?
It's what I'm doing now. It's I work, but also this is what I'm doing now. It's the business that I started probably like 2 months ago.
Right on. Because were you the comic? Were you on comic strips? I'm just trying to remember. No, I'm trying to remember what your old business was and what your pitch was.
I've been surveying for like 22 years as a land surveyor.
Okay.
I did like 4 years in prison, but they brought me back once I got home. So I've been doing that for a while, and in between that, I had a company called Lofton Builders, and we were just doing like renovations, and I was doing like I was laying out foundations, building the boxes around houses and things like that. Just real easy stuff that I do Friday and Saturday, sometimes Sunday. But now I'm doing this and I love it, man. And it's easy. It's kind of easy, but it takes a lot of homework.
Amen to that. Perfect. Marco, Nadav, what do you think?
Yeah, and Ken, you might have cut out a little bit on my side, a little bit in the middle. You said you're doing like some phone chargers. It's different international merch, you said. So was it phone chargers? What else were you selling on Amazon?
It says, I'll just do it again. He says, hi, I'm Kenny Lofton. I'm the owner of Essentials of Yahweh. Essentials of Yahweh is a brilliant company that specialize in international merchandising and retailing. We offer most new trending products such as innovative phone chargers, doorbell cameras, LED lighting, and much, much more. Maybe you have a product you cannot get your hands on. Most likely I can. My products can be found on Amazon Prime, Facebook place, or you can just email me at kenlofton20@gmail.com.
Nice. I like it. That's good. Definitely good business too. I mean, if Amazon can drive you customers, right, then you don't have to worry too much about how do you find customers if you can rank and search on Amazon. A couple of thoughts, I think, even for you too. Like, I'd be wondering how like local you could do stuff to help grow the business too. Like, I would imagine if it's like phone chargers and stuff, if you could have like QR codes that link to your Amazon like actual item, like, and you could put it at bus stops or gas stations and stuff, like, hey, need a new phone charger, and it's like a QR code that like links people to like find you a little bit easier. Because
Wow.
I feel like it's always like people are hanging around on in environments where people are like hanging around on their phone's usually dead at that time because they're waiting for the bus, they're waiting for a train or plane or something. Could be like a good little cheap spot for you to put like marketing flyers just to get a little bit more business. Just an idea for you. The other thought on the elevator pitch, I thought the elevator pitch was really strong. I thought that was really good. I don't know if you need to include like the international aspect of it, because I think it's just like, hey, I sell phone chargers, LED lights. I would honestly be a little bit skeptical like of the quality sometimes, depending on where it's coming from. I think what you should highlight is your value is like that it's going to be cheaper, right? So it's like, hey, I sell high quality phone chargers, LED lights for a lot cheaper than you can get anywhere else. You can check me out on Amazon. That would kind of be like the value I would pitch a little bit, but I thought you nailed it. Like, it sounds like a really, really strong pitch. So good work.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Yeah, I second both these guys. I think it is strong. I think you have the confidence, Ken. We taste that you're a second timer coming through here, you know, and bringing that confidence. That's really good. A couple of things in my ears that I heard. I don't think you have to drop your email address, right? Like, that's just feels like you wouldn't say that to somebody in an elevator. So I might remove that. It might be easier to find like an Instagram handle, you know, like
Right.
this. You know, I think that is a good thing. Another thing, when I think about pitches, you don't want to repeat the same thing twice. So in the very beginning on your script, you're like, I'm Ken, here's my business. My business does this. You could just slide right through it. Be like, I'm Ken, my business is this, we do this. There's a little bit of that flow in that way. And otherwise, I think it's really interesting business. I feel like I don't know that business so well. It seems to me like it's pretty cutthroat. Like, it could be pretty hard. A lot of competitors, Amazon fees being high, a lot of chaos with inventory. So, but that's on one side of my brain. Then the other side is like, wait a minute, someone's making a ton of money doing this. Why can't it be Ken, right? So I don't know. And but I agree maybe with Marco that you got to find a way to kind of pitch that value, whether it's the cheapest, whether it's the snazziest colors, right? Like, whatever the differential factor is, whatever makes you different, therefore special, that's what you want to drop on us.
Cool, man.
Appreciate you, Ken. And also, being the
he was
first.
talking about the marketing. That was awesome, man.
Good. Yeah, we appreciate you being the first to drop the knowledge on us and the confidence in this class. That really sets the tone properly. So thanks, man.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you. Thank you.
Good job.
Yeah, who else is wanting to share and say hello? Alex on the iPhone, do you want to just give the world by voice? I know you've been dropping into the chat. If you do, just it might be a little easier for you to just drop it in the chat if you want us to unmute you. Okay, perfect.
Unmute. Hey, I'm Matthew of Against All Odds Kennel. I provide some of the best grand champion bloodline quality American bully in the world, from standard class, XL, and exotics. I'm located in the Indianapolis area, and out of every litter, I always give a pup away for free to a retired veteran that needs a service dog for either emotional or physical support therapy. But my dogs are grand champions for show quality, and they're also certified for emotional support and physical therapy. You can look us up and find us at Against All Odds Kennel or AAOK Bullies across all social media platforms.
Perfect. I think the opportunity here, the opportunity for you here is really just work on it, practice it, and just make it flow a little bit better. But you hit all the key highlight points. I love that you're giving one to that you're looking to give one to a service member who's retired and needs that help. There's I like it. Just work on it, practice it. I'd give that pitch every day to one of your bullies every day. Just practice so that you get to that point to where it seems effortless and it rolls off the tongue. Now, on top of that, you can change it in addition to saying that we offer these world-class bullies to what is it that's something, if you come across somebody in the elevator, besides wanting to buy a bully from you, are there things that you need that would support your service mission to supporting veterans? So are there other things that you could do as part of your organization that would be of service to veterans and to give people another reason to talk to you, even if they don't want to buy a bulldog from you today? It's not to say that they won't buy from you tomorrow, but a bulldog purchase is probably not that often. But, as an ancillary service that you may want to consider, we also offer, boarding services for dogs. We also offer grooming services, things of that sort that you can have a conversation with somebody who's just not looking to find a breeder today.
Yeah, piggybacking off the dog for veteran, I really like that idea. I almost think you could talk about that like for even like a split second more in your pitch, where you're like, hey, if you know a veteran, if you're, if any like friend or family of yours is a veteran, we're actually going to be raffling off, one of the pups in the next litter. So just, feel free to send them a text with, my information or something. It's a good way just to like ask somebody to spread the word about you, because it's like, oh, I'm helping for me, if you pitch that to me, I'm like, yeah, I'm helping a friend like maybe get a dog for free. So then people are going to be more likely to talk about you. And that's part of the goal of the elevator pitch too, is like, you might not be able to sell a dog to me directly, but I might go tell 3 people about you because I know you're giving away a dog to a veteran. So I would like play that up a lot in your pitch. I think that's a really strong, it's a cool thing that you do. And it's a good way to get people to talk about you. So you could like almost make that like your ask at the end, like, hey, do you know any veterans who might be interested in a pup? Like, would you mind sharing my information with them? That's a good way to end it, I think.
Wow, Marco, that's strong. I like that idea too. And to piggyback off also what Josh said, I think you could find organizations that are veteran organizations too, right? So you could work with those organizations to identify those people that are going to be really receptive to that special way that you are different, right? And in this case, that differentiation is the focus on veterans, and that can be huge. Josh mentioned the kennel services, the other services. For me, I smell a little bit of this feeling here where it's like the California gold rush, right? Who made money in the California gold rush? Not all the people that moved west to pant for gold, but rather the people that were there to sell them pickaxes, right? So you want to be in the pickaxe business. So if you're selling dogs, right? There's only so many dogs I can have, right? There's only so many ways you can repeat the customer. The kennel business is amazing. The kennel, like, call around, act as if you're a customer in your neighborhood trying to get kenneling for your dog. It's amazing. It's like the price of a hotel per night. They're booked a year in advance. The kennel business is amazing. So I think about like some other ways to be like, all right, I don't know how many bullies I can sell, but I can max out on kenneling. And there's people that do it out of their house. It's easily $20-$30 per night every dog. It can be, it's a great business to get into and very lightly regulated. The customers are always happy. Dog comes back alive. It's not telling any stories, If the dog comes back looking healthy, you got a happy customer. So I think the kennel business is great. John is laughing.
You've got to be a dog owner, bro.
Yeah. But with that said, very smooth. I loved your delivery. I loved your confidence, Alex. I'm looking forward to see where you go. It's sounding great, man.
Okay, we had a request to go next year. Where'd it go? I am not even going to try and pronounce the name because I will wait for him to pronounce it for me so I don't make a total ass out of myself. Mr. Gomez, though.
My name is Vito Gomez, the D style from like Django or Vito. I'm a proud owner of two cafeterias. I've been a midterm, short-term restaurant owner. I host for people, whether they're going on vacation or they're traveling with family and more accommodations, the feature, more features such as kitchen, laundry, and things of that nature. I also have clients that are transitioning into different homes and moving to the city, as well as people that have work from home situations where they're basically traveling and under my career. My properties are in the Washington DC area as well as New Jersey. And I'm in the process of renovating those, and you can find us on all major platforms such as booking.com, VRBO. Only property I'm not on is Airbnb.
Okay, so I had a really challenging time hearing most of that. I do know that it was a little on the longer side, greater than 30 seconds. Could we get that down again and try and speak a little bit more into the mic, a little bit easier?
Can you hear me better now?
Yeah.
Okay, I was just saying that again, my name, which is Vito, is pronounced with the D. I mean, with the D style. My properties are from three properties here. I have short and mid-term properties in the Washington DC and in the Caribbean area. I cater to, again, people that are long-term wanderlust, short-term vacationers, as well as people that are transitioning into different cities. I can use on our platforms, such as booking.com, VRBO, Black IO, traveling nurses. The only one that I'm not on is Airbnb. Did you hear that?
I think I might have heard that if I'm hearing you correctly. So like you're basically, it sounds like you're buying properties and doing short-term and long-term rentals. You're doing on booking.com and VRBO and like in the DC area.
Yes, and the Caribbean as well. And I
Okay.
always own the property.
Gotcha. Awesome. That's great. No, I thought that was good. Yeah, it's still a little bit tougher to hear, but I think from what I heard, like sounds like you hit most of those parts of like what you do, where you're doing it, like what city in Washington, DC, where we can find you. So that second version was a little bit shorter, which was strong, which was great. One idea too, like when I'm thinking about your business, the most of the time, if you're going to be talking to somebody, probably if you do live in the Washington, DC area, they're probably not going to be the ones who would be renting from you, unless it's maybe like more for like a long-term rental. So you could always work on like adapting your pitch to be, if you're talking to somebody in person, they're in town, it's, hey, if you're looking for your next, rental like spot, or if you know anybody else looking for when their lease is coming up, I have a few properties, you could tailor your pitch a little bit that way, to like more like the longer term rentals. Or you could even try pitching to like, hey, if you know anybody coming from out of town who might be looking for, if you have in-laws or somebody coming in from out of town to visit, feel free to check out one of my properties. You can kind of like try to tailor it a little bit to the local people you're talking to.
Yes, because these things are very transient cities, and we also have a lot of internet that people have short term.
Okay, great. Nadav, Josh, any other thoughts there too?
No, I think I'm good.
Sorry, I'm just eating over here. Yeah, I didn't hear much. I think the property thing, it's true. It can be a very hard pitch. Because unless you're trying to pitch directly to somebody that might rent from you, when are you likely to give this pitch? In a chamber of commerce kind of situation, talking to other business people, it's kind of a dead end, right? It's like, you're not the target market. So I think Marco's totally right to keep that in mind. We appreciate you sharing it with us, being brave, rolling on the mic. This is great. This is what we need you to do. So I'm very proud of you for sharing that with us. And it can be a great business. Real estate is very good. Short-term rentals can be very profitable. We got anybody else? We got time for more? Well,
Well, let's start moving into material, because last week we kind of ended up having this floor to finish up in time. So I'd rather not be huffing it at the end.
and thankfully Marco is here this week, so he's going to do all the slides.
Well, that sounds good. Let's you and I start moving off, and I don't know, start comparing and surfing on Instagram Reels or something like that.
How's that pitch, Marco? There you go. There's your, he just gave you a soft pitch for you. I think we're not hearing you now, Marco.
Where did he go?
He's talking.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
There we go. I don't know what's going on there. Cool. I'll kick off like maybe the first half of the slide, and then we'll pass it back over to you guys. We'll see. All right, cool. So tonight's class, we're talking about sales. And so sales and marketing kind of go a little bit hand in hand together. The goal here is, as you launch your business, getting that first dollar, like getting your first customer to say yes, is like the biggest deal, because you know you have a valid business model, you know you have something that's working. So we're going to talk about that a little bit tonight. We're also going to talk about just a little bit about like what sales is, because for a lot of folks, they get kind of nervous thinking about selling. And so we're going to unpack what that looks like a little bit. And for those of you like who have already started your business and you've already had the first sale, in the back half of class, we'll talk about like, how do you grow sales? How do you grow revenue? How do you just get more customers doing what you're currently doing? So this first section here, talking about analyzing your business idea. A lot of you maybe have ideas, or you're still working on your idea. You're trying to get things figured out here. That's okay. These 3 bullet points that are kind of key though. So 1, collecting feedback. So we always say at Inmates Entrepreneurs, like, share your elevator pitch with as many people as possible, especially other people in the industry, because they can give you feedback on like, okay, hey, I tried this when I first started, or I tried that when I first started. It's really good to get feedback from not just friends and family, because they're going to probably tell you what you want to hear, but from like random people that you meet. That's probably going to be your best source of feedback. I'm always a fan of like calling other business owners that are doing the same thing as you in another city, and just cold calling them and saying like, hey, I'm starting this new heater rental company. I saw you're doing that in Southern California. Do you have any advice for me as I get started? Great way to get feedback and just kind of like talk through your process of getting started. Industry reports are, kind of key to some degree, right? Like, you should just kind of know if you're going to start a business in a certain industry, you should kind of know what's going on. So for the heater business, for example, like we always talk about like, hey, what are weddings doing today? Like, are more Arizona weddings going outside? Are they staying inside? Like, how are things trending a little bit? That's just important to like know, so you know, okay, hey, is my business going to potentially grow in size? Like the dog kenneling business is a great one, right? There's always going to be dogs. You're always going to have a market. You probably don't need to do too much industry analysis, because you know people have dogs. You're pretty much green light, like good to go there. Profitability analysis is kind of key as well. What we mean by that is just basically trying to figure out how many sales do you have to have in order to like make your cost back of what you spent to get that, right? So if it costs you $100 to buy a heater to rent out, and you're going to rent that heater for like $50 or $100, like how many sales do you have to have in order to actually become profitable? That's just an important metric for everybody to know for their individual business. So this is just basically figuring out how many sales do you have to at least break even, and to start breaking even before you start making some money there is key. Going to the second half here. So we're going to talk about just like what sales is, because a lot of people don't necessarily like sales. I love sales, but that's maybe like some of my personality. Like a lot of folks I know don't like selling. And that's because I think selling kind of has a bad reputation. A lot of people think of like somebody trying to maybe sell, a used car that doesn't really work, or like sell different like products that they just don't want, or infomercials. That's not really what selling is, especially in terms of like growing your business. I always talk about sales as just like giving somebody of something that's valuable to them, and then just paying you money to do that, right? So like the dog kennel one, for example, like you're basically providing somebody a place to put their dog for a couple of nights. You're giving them that value and they're going to give you money to do that. If there's no sale, there's no, like, you're not gimmicking somebody, you're not tricking somebody. You're just giving somebody value and they're going to pay you to do that. That's the key thing there. In sales though, you're going to face rejection. Like, there's going to be a ton of times where you talk to potential customers, you give your elevator pitch and people just don't like it. They don't need it. That's okay. And so you have to be okay when you're growing your business as a business owner to face rejection. You're going to talk to probably 100 people and 99 of them will maybe tell you no, but like, if you get one deal, if you get your first like dollar, that's okay. Like, let that fuel you and keep going. Sales kind of is a numbers game at the end of the day. You kind of have to learn to sell as well. Like, you know, nobody's really born to sell. I always talk about selling as like, if you can just be a really good question asker, you'll get really good at sales. You don't have to be good at pitching. You don't have to be good at convincing. You don't have to be good at negotiating. If you're just good at like asking people questions, they will start to tell you why they do need your business or your product or your service. So asking questions, I think, is really the kind of the key to sales there. And that really comes down to like just listening twice as much as you talk. It's all about relationships as well, depending on your business too. Like, especially if you're in a service business where you're going to do like monthly cleanings for businesses or monthly whatever, like that's a relationship business. And so you really need to make sure that you're developing relationships, not just being transactional in how you sell. And the last bullet point on here, knowing your lead times. What we mean by that, your lead time is basically like how long it takes you to start a sale, to close a sale. Sometimes that's going to be really fast. If you're selling hot dogs on the corner of the street, your lead time is going to be 1 minute. Somebody's going to see your sign and they're just going to buy the hot dog. But if you're, selling a cleaning service, you might talk to a customer and they might not book you for another 30 days until the beginning of next month. So it's just important to be aware of, depending on your business, how long it's going to take you from when you start the sale to like actually get the money in the door from that person. That's that slide. Josh, Nadav, thoughts, stories?
I got stuff to just say. You're amazing, Marco. You're killing it. It's great. So glad to have you in the class with us, man. All right. So thinking about this whole like picture of our business, right? So for me, a big part of this is understanding the kind of industry that you're going in. And Marco, I was cheering for you so hard when you were like, look at businesses just like the one you want to start, but somewhere else. That's your gold mine. You want to mine that. You want to know what they're doing for social media. It's almost like you want to stalk them and have them be that model in your head. Like, what does that other business do? When questions come up, you can look and see they'll answer that question for you. This profitability analysis part is so important. So I want you to think about Alex's business idea of selling the bully puppy, right? So you can sell a puppy. Like we talked about, you're not going to maybe have that many repeat buyers. You're going to sell one puppy. What is the lead time? When are they going to buy again? Maybe 10 years, 12 years if they have a one dog family, as opposed to if it's a haircut, right? Some of us need haircuts more often than others, right? It could be a pretty regular thing. And that's just a different level of profitability in terms of how much money that customer is worth to you. How profitable is the haircut versus how many costs are there in raising the bully? So restaurants famously have a 1% profit margin on average. Every $100 that comes in the door, owners are walking away with $1, right? So you compare that to other businesses where you have very big profit margins, like renting heaters, let's say, for the margins there look pretty nice, or t-shirts have pretty big margins. So part of this is understanding how much money can this kind of business really make? And that can be hard to figure out, but it's an important thing to think about. All right, a couple other things here that jumped out at me. If you're selling to somebody, right? If you're having this conversation with your customers, if you are talking, you are losing. When your customer is the one talking to you, you are winning. The more your customers talk, the happier they're going to be with you. People love to hear themselves talk. If you can get your people talking, you're going to be winning. So that, just keep that in the back of your head as you have sales, like Marco said, ask questions. It's really, really wonderful. Josh, please correct both of us. Elucidate us on your massive sales skills.
Are you kidding me? If I had massive sales skills, I'd be like, I don't know, I wouldn't be here. No, I think you guys all covered it. We can move on to the next slide. You want to take this one, Nadav?
All right. So when people buy a product from you, they are buying you. All right. So you are the embodiment. You are the body of your product. If you come off to these folks as somehow not good, however they see you, right? That can be a problem because they're buying into the vision of you. And this is one of those areas where the second chance situation with the right customers could be amazing. People do want to support you. You got to find those people. So you also in this way are a model to everybody in your community, to your employees. So how you present yourself, how you act, how you speak to people, right? This is all about how you're selling yourself more than your product. So when I owned a coffee shop, customers would come in, if they had a nice time with me, they loved the vibe of hanging out with me for a few minutes, they wanted to come back. Maybe it wasn't about the coffee. Maybe my coffee was not that good, but they wanted to come hang out with this guy, misguided as that was, right? It's beautiful. They had a great time. So some of the things, what are the behaviors of the person that you want to buy into? You want to get to your meeting on time and early, right? If you're 5 minutes early, that's on time. If you're half an hour early, it's weird, right? And 5 minutes late is definitely not okay. You want to really respect your customers, their time, but also them as individuals. It's just kind of understanding how to talk to people in a way that in my view, I treat everybody like they're my aunt or my cousin, right? Enough familiarity and love and warmth, but also a veneer and a big dose of respect and caring, and that people really get that point. You want to dress well. It took me a long time to learn that one. You know, you got to really dress for the costume that you're for the business that you're doing, you know, and dress and act appropriately in that way. So then you also really need to know what you're doing. You are the expert in your thing, right? If you have a boarding business, you need to know all the laws and regulations about boarding, all the safety issues around boarding. So part of this is understanding your business and being the expert in what you're doing, and also understanding your competitors, the other places, other kennels in town, right? And you don't want to badmouth them, and you don't want them to badmouth you. So you don't want to badmouth them. But you want to know what's going on with them. Do they charge more or less than you? How booked up are they, right? So for your average customer who tries to go to either one, what do they see as the big differences? Follow-up is really important. So when customers get in touch with you, and some businesses lend themselves to customers are coming in and you're taking care of them as they come in. Other ones, you have to chase them. So we call that in business hunter versus farmer. Right? You could either be out hunting and trying to get customers all the time, or you can sit back and let customers come to you. All right. So as people are coming to you, or as you find them out there, you need to follow up with them and keep that communication really, really tight. So when that message comes in from them, that's the most important message you got going on. It's not like I'm going to watch this Netflix show, finish this Gatorade, then I'll get back to them. You want to respect your customer by following up with them quickly and responding. Understand who is the decision maker, right? If you walk into a business, you might be able to sell to the person sitting in the front desk, but that doesn't mean you're going to get the sale. So you understand who you have to talk to who can make the decision. Sometimes this can be in a family. Most families, it's the mother or the wife figure that holds the purse strings. They are in charge of 80% of the money that goes out of the house on average. So if it's a family decision, oftentimes that's who you're going to want to try to talk to. So you don't want to waste your time in that way. You got to know when you're done selling. This is such a big thing. So avoid selling beyond the sale. So you've made the sale, right? You go to Josh and you're like, Josh, I'm buying the shirts. I love that template that you sent me. The mock-up was beautiful. Give me 100 of them. And then at that point, Josh can't be like, do you want to buy the shirts? You know, and maybe, right? It's like, don't undo the sale. But at that point, when you hear that message, you have to say, awesome. Let me charge your credit card. Thank you. Right? And then you're off to work on the next one. So be visual. You want to be able to show images and pictures of what you're doing, you know, and have testimonials, powerful things that are out there. So when prospective customers check you out, look you up on social media, maybe look at your website, maybe hear stories from your neighbors. When they look you up, they see cool things. You know, people want to see those images. They want to see a picture of you. They want to see a picture of Josh on a screen printing machine, right? They want to see a picture of Marco's brother setting up those heaters at the wedding, you know, with the icicles and the hat, you know? They want to see the images that they're going to expect to see. So it's really important. And sometimes you have to get a photographer out there. Maybe it's your cousin, but you got to work to get those images. And you really have to, again, with competitors, don't let competitors get in your worldview in that way. You need to know what's going on with your competitors. Don't badmouth them lest they badmouth you. But you got to know what are the positives and negatives and how customers see you and your competitors, and just kind of keep focused on why you're different. We talk about how do we make ourselves different, therefore special, therefore you can charge more money. What are the ways that you are special, that is unlike your competitors, and that you can leave it at that? And if someone wants to go to the competitor, good luck, bless you. I love my competitor. May they stay in business a long time. What do you think?
Super good, Nadav. I have a couple thoughts on that, and maybe like a story too. I know Nadav and Josh are like much smarter than me when they come to like making buying decisions and stuff. But for me, like I have a hard time, I think, like differentiating between different products or services. So I think like one thing I'll highlight from what Nadav said is the little things win, especially like in service businesses. If you show up on time and like, you know, dress appropriately and talk appropriately, like I'm probably going to choose you. Like for example, a couple like weeks ago, I needed somebody to like help cut down a tree I had, and I had two companies come out, and one company was on time. They were actually like 10 minutes early. The other company was like 3 hours late, and they sent like super sloppy emails. I honestly don't know the difference between company A and company B. I chose company A because they were on time and they sent like their emails had, you know, proper grammar and periods and stuff. Most people are like that. So like when you're selling a service or selling a product, I don't know the difference between company A or company B and who's really better. So like if you do the little things right, it's the little things that will actually win you business, especially when you're first starting. If you're a brand new company, you can beat out every other competitor by showing up on time, by sending like, you know, better emails, by talking better over the phone, talking to customers better, because those are the little things that you're going to do right that like the big companies won't necessarily do right. So the little things, when I think about like, so Kenny, like your business, for example, or like even the property business, like the VRBO stuff, like when I'm looking at phone chargers on Amazon, if there's like 20 phone chargers on Amazon, I don't know which one to pick. So for me, I'm like, okay, I'm going to pick the one that has like, you know, a cleaner description, or like they don't have any typos in their description, or like the title looks right. Those are the little things I think that help win. And that's really what sales is, right? If you do the little things right, that's when people will pick you and pick your business.
Yeah. So to build on that and to just pick up on two other things. One is when you have a business such as something that people don't understand how the sausage gets made, like a tree trimming business, like a coffee shop, be prepared to have a quick conversation about why what you do works well. Or even if you sell multiple products, have a recommendation, put a stake in the ground that says, this is the product that I think you should choose, and here's why. Because that puts you into a position of authority. If you just turn around and say, hey, here's 52 choices, your customers are going to default to, well, what's the cheapest? And there could be a reason to do that, but there could be a great reason to say, you know what, here's the cheapest option. And if you're economically focused, here's an option for you. But if you want more comfort, here's another option for you. So it's a matter of be consultative in your sales effort. So it takes that kind of professionalism that Marco was talking about, and kind of even going into the piece where sometimes you've got a product that people don't know the difference. Like we go to a car repair shop and they tell you something's wrong, and you tell them to fix it, because if I knew what was wrong, I wouldn't be here to begin with. If the guy turns around and starts telling you, well, what type of tires do you want? Ones that don't pop? What do you mean, what type of tires do I want? What type of oil do you want? One that lubricates? Like, give me the cheapest one until you tell me why one thing matters over the other. So like when I was talking about apparel, I'll say, hey, look, here's the cheapest brand that's out there, because if you're price shopping me, and I know you are, I want to make sure I'm leading with the best price. But then I'll say, hey, look, you're a nonprofit, and as a nonprofit, it's going to be important for you that that person wears that shirt a second time. Marco and I were having this debate the other day about like how kind of apparel kind of comes together. So if you go to a nonprofit event, you usually wear it that day and you kind of toss it in the corner, it becomes a rag or something that you wash your car with. But if I can get that person to wear that shirt another, I don't know, 10 times, each day we have about 16 interactions with other human beings. So that's another 160 opportunities for me to talk about that nonprofit because I'm wearing their shirt. Oh, well, that's interesting. So if I invest a little bit more money on the shirt, people wear it more, put a little bit more on the design. Hey, let's just make sure that this is a shirt worth wearing, not just for the day of picture that everyone's wearing their blue shirts to support the cause. I want that person to wear that shirt to the gym, to the coffee shop, to their next meeting, so that they're repping out my brand the next time. Same thing about, so think about how that kind of applies to the work that you're doing, because you want other people to help sell. You want to be able to intelligently sell your own product and think, how do people find you? So
Great point.
I can't underemphasize the bottom point here. As much as we like to bag on a competitor and kind of, fire some arrows at people, you really want to extol your positive attributes and let your positive attributes stay for yourself. As Marco said, show up on time, look professional. It doesn't take you that long to go through a website like Grammarly to double check your grammar on your emails. There are websites with AI tools that'll help you make sure that you're sending out an email message that makes a lot of sense. That it should be free of grammatical errors, spelling errors, things like that. You're asking people to part with their money. Let's make sure that you're showing up in a responsible way.
I really want to piggyback on something that you said, Josh, which made me think something that you're totally right about the different options that you show people in that way, right? Like that nicer shirt. A lot of businesses show people 3 options. The most expensive one being what we call in business, the unicorn, right? Something super expensive, unattainable, and then you figure out which of the other lower 2 you push them to. But understand if you're in a business that you have to give people options, you really have to narrow that down, right? You really want to give them no more than 3 options is probably the big takeaway.
Yep. And then you also want to follow that up with here's why. Could we go on to the next slide?
You're going to take one finally, Josh? Nah.
Nah.
Oh, good. A short one for you. Perfect.
I got a nice little short one.
The easy one.
So converting your leads to the marketing plan into customers. Why should they choose you? So this is one where you could have a little bit of fun, but to really be fair and thoughtful. Most people will turn around and say, we compete on service, or we offer a better experience, and something kind of bullshit like that. The challenge with that is, what does that even mean? Most people, when they will buy based upon emotion, and then they will use logic to back up their purchase. Most decisions are an emotional buy first. So Marco turned around and selected his tree service person based upon their emails. Now the person could show up and be totally incompetent, but based upon the emails, which I guess is an indicator of I've got it together somehow, he could show up using bad equipment and totally mess up. And there you've got a tree that comes crashing through your living room. But if you think about it, why should they choose you? You've got to put yourself into their position and say, well, what are the things that they need to kind of think through? I've been in 2 very much commodity-based businesses. One is being the tax preparation business, and apparel too is pretty commoditized. There's nothing I do in my apparel business that is any different than my next guy. Nothing. In the tax world, for the most part, there was nothing that I did that H&R Block couldn't have done. There was nothing that I did that, there were some specialties that I had and things like that. But for the most part, it's a tax return. You're going to pay me, whatever it is, an amount of money. Could you go next door? Yeah. Are they going to give you more or less the same return? Probably. So what you then go for is, why should they choose you? I'll turn around in the apparel space. I'll say I'll sell you the same shirt with the same ink that my competitor will use, using kind of the same process too. The difference is that I'm making a difference in our community. And don't you want your community to be a better place by virtue of me hiring people and giving them a second chance? Compelling. On the tax side, hey, there's 370,000 other CPAs running around this country. Why me? We're having a conversation. Do you think you can trust me around your return? Do you think you can get the answers that you're looking for? Do you enjoy our conversation right now? That's what really matters. Because then they'll be like, well, I've never been audited before. I'm like, well, that doesn't mean anything. That just means that the IRS says maybe you should be audited. Who knows? But are you enjoying the conversation that we're having? Are you enjoying the interaction? I'm pointing them to a place of saying, this is what matters and this is why you should be choosing me, even though I'm in a commodity-based business. What is your unique selling proposition? Again, even if you're in a commoditized business, think about what makes transacting with you more fun, because that could be unique. Overall, many businesses are commoditized, and in business school, they will always tell you about, well, what are you doing that's so unique? Well, sometimes it could just be a matter of, well, we execute better. It hasn't come up in this cohort yet, but in times past, we've had the conversation around, well, I've got this great idea and I can't share it with anyone. Well, you know what? That might be true. And there are good reasons why sometimes you have to be a little bit more covert about your business plan. But more often than not, we're paranoid because someone's going to steal our idea. Go ahead, steal my idea. I'm still going to execute it better. If you think about it, for those who are a little bit older, maybe this is more for Nadav, less for Marco. Microsoft comes out and pretty much rips off every good product that, like, they don't have an original idea ever. They just flawlessly execute. And for the most part, most of our bigger companies today, they don't innovate anymore. Our major companies don't innovate much at all. They just buy the smaller competitors who have figured out all how to do it. They've acquired a customer base of a meaningful size. They've worked out all the bugs in the software and the customer piece. Once you get it together, then they get sold by a larger company and they get kind of swallowed up. I mean, that's kind of how bigger companies kind of innovate. So when you think about that, it's like, well, what do I do that's different? Not much. But do you enjoy that experience? Again, people are going to buy with their heart and justify it later on. I'm going to buy the shirt for $9.99 because it's on sale. Not that I need another t-shirt. I've already got 30, but it was on sale. So I'm going to buy it. Or, you know, other things. Why'd you go to that tree service? Well, they responded to my email. They made it easy to do business. Is that overly unique? Well, actually, it kind of is. Let's talk about conversion for a second. Conversion, if you have 10 leads, 3 become customers, the conversion rate is simple, 30%. If you need 6 customers, it's better and cheaper to increase your conversion rate than to just get more leads. Except for, just because, like, I can get a much higher conversion by reducing my price. The problem is that twofold. One, I'm making less money. And 2, there are people who, there's a mindset of people who are buying on the cheap versus people who are willing to pay a premium. People who are willing to pay a premium oftentimes are easier to work with. They don't mind and sweat the small stuff. People on the lower end who are a little bit more intent on grinding on price. Oh, this is off by a little bit. Make me another coffee. This one's just a little bit bitter. Why is the price $2.90 instead of last week it was $2.85? Like, when you start working with that population of people who are really, really adamant on price, if you're super adamant on price, the challenge that you run into is you're kind of working what you pay for. You're working for that dollar versus this is my price. This is what I'm looking to do. And if you get a conversion rate of, say, north of 80%, if you're closing every single deal, that's probably an indication that you're closing too much and your price is too low. Ideally, if you're somewhere between, say, 40 and 70%, back of the napkin, that's a pretty good closing rate where you want to kind of thrive into. 30%, probably a little low. And what I mean by conversion, you're having an active dialogue. I'm not saying that you turned around and you sent out 100 emails. You send out 100 emails, you might convert 1%. But I'm saying if you have had a face-to-face conversation with somebody, you've made your proposal, you should be able to close 1 out of 2. And if not, you got to think, well, gee, why is that? Am I bidding a little aggressive? Know what other people in your area are doing and what they're pricing for. So, for the bulldogs, find out what the normal breeder rate happens to be in your area. And by area, I'd probably be very expansive because people will drive a day or two to get their dog. So I would pretty much check the entire state as far as what the breeding rate is for a bulldog. Get a sense of what that price happens to be. If it's, $1,000, well, then your price should be $1,000. People are going to come out, they're going to think about, they're going to shop you against some of the pet stores and stuff like that. They're going to compare you against the pound and the kennels and stuff like that. So just know what other people are doing. But again, you're going to try and drive for a close rate between 40 and 70% base, and you can tweak that based upon your industry. Okay, what did I miss, gentlemen?
That was really good, Josh. I think you honestly covered it all. The one thing I'll just add on to, because you're talking about pricing a little bit, which is off the slide, but I think a lot of folks, when they're first starting, they're scared to charge too much, right? Like people, like when they're like, oh, for their first customers, like they want to be cheaper, like you want to be the cheaper option, like cheaper is not always better. You should, like kind of what Josh is saying is like, hey, just figure out what the market rate is, like figure out what people are paying for different services. And then just go with that and then kind of see what happens. Or I think a lot of times you kind of, it's almost like a confidence thing. So like, I would encourage you all just to like, be super confident when you go for that first sale to charge whatever everybody else is charging. And maybe you could discount it if you really want to try to close the deal at the end. But don't be cheaper just to be cheaper, because cheaper is not always going to be, doesn't mean you're going to win more business. Actually, sometimes people will be willing to pay more money for a product that they think is actually going to be better. So think about that. You should just focus on being better, not necessarily cheaper.
Great point, Marco. And it's really know your market, know your competitors, how much they charge and where you stack up against them, and have confidence. The real quick thing I wanted to add in here was thinking about, the theory behind this, right? And Josh really hit on it, that you don't want to chase these customers that are looking for you for the lower price. And the way to think about it is the theory says there's only two ways to get what's called competitive advantage, an advantage over your competitors. Only two ways. One way is be cheaper. Walmart, chase down all those people that want it to be cheaper, right? And that's one way. Other way, differentiation. Be different in some crazy way, then you can charge more money, right? Maybe you support veterans. Maybe your product is better in some other ways. Your service level is higher. So you want to be on that different side. That's the big takeaway in my book. You don't want to be chasing, like Josh said, the folks that want to hammer you on price. Find a way to charge a bunch more money by offering extra special, whatever. All right, Marco, I think this next slide is yours.
Yeah, we'll go to the next slide here, please, Ali. Thank you.
Oh, another tough one.
Yeah. Cool. So this is a sales funnel. This is in the activity book, if anybody's printed it out. But something I would recommend each of you, like even if you don't have it printed out, like scribble this down on a piece of paper or on your phone or something. I'll talk through each of these 8 steps of what this basically is. When we mentioned before, we mentioned lead times, or like, hey, how long it takes to close a sale or what it looks like. This is the process of closing a sale. So how do you what is step 1 is from the initial contact all the way to like step 8 of like actually after you finish closing the deal. For some of you, like this is going to be a lot faster of a process. This isn't going to necessarily be 8 different steps. These 8 steps, like the hot dog stand business, right? Like that could happen in a matter of a minute, where you first make initial contact with somebody, you close the deal, they pay for it, you say thank you, they're gone. So for some people, this could be really fast. For other folks, this is going to be like a little bit of a longer process, where like for Josh's t-shirt business, right? Like you're going to have probably a couple different meetings or a couple different phone calls to actually close the deal if it's a bigger deal. So step 1 is kind of like the initial contact. So I'm off the left side. To the left side is kind of like the steps that you will take, that you'll kind of go through. The right side is more of like the process that the customer actually goes through to make the decision. So step 1, hey, your initial contact, that's maybe like your initial first phone call, your first meeting with somebody, whatever that looks like, talking to them in person. What you're going to do usually during that first time you're talking to a potential customer is you're going to qualify them. You're going to make sure that they actually are a good fit for your product or service, that they actually want it. I'm a fan of a framework called BANT. It's literally just B-A-N-T, BANT. It's a sales framework, and that's how people qualify customers. What that stands for is budget, authority, needs, and timing. And to qualify somebody, you're basically just validating that, hey, they have the budget. Like, does this, for Josh, like, does this nonprofit actually have the right amount of budget to meet the minimum order for our t-shirts? Is like, or do they have the authority? Is this the right person who's at the nonprofit to make the decision? Or is this just the intern who's calling me to ask for t-shirts? Like, can the intern actually say yes to ordering these t-shirts? N is need, like does somebody actually have the need, and T is time, like do they actually need these t-shirts, in the next couple of weeks, or are they calling for t-shirts for next year's event, but they're not going to order them for 9 more months, right? So that's the qualifying process. Sometimes it can be super fast. You're not going to necessarily ask those questions specifically, but it's just kind of like as you're talking to a customer, it's just trying to figure out like, hey, how many t-shirts are you looking to order? When are you going to need these t-shirts by? Like, is there anybody else like who you want to be a part of, like, you verifying that the t-shirt design looks good? You can ask different questions to make sure that they're actually a good fit for a customer. That goes into like kind of step 3, that's identifying their need, like talking them through like what they actually need from you. And then step 4, like make sure like they actually see what they need. So I think Nadav was talking earlier about like having photos and testimonials. Really great example, especially if you're in the service business. Show people photos of, or even for products too, like show people photos of the product or service that they're going to get. Show them like the before and after of like the dirty car and then like the clean car after you wash their car, right? Like those are like the key things that like help people make that decision. Step number 5 is actually huge. It's a big thing that a lot of people actually forget. Step 6 is like where they actually like forget to ask for the sale. So make sure like you give people the options and then say like, hey, are we ready to move forward here? Can I get this order submitted for you? You can kind of ask questions to make sure you give somebody an opportunity to actually say yes to booking your business. That's a key thing. Next steps is key. Just make sure you tell the person like, hey, this is what's going to happen next. I'm going to, I'll schedule you. I'll put you on the calendar for, February 28th or whatever it is. And then you're going to thank them afterwards. Thanking somebody is like a really good way to get extra business, whether it's like upsells when you're there actually performing the service, or like when you're trying to get repeat business from somebody. That's a key thing. If you tell your customers thank you, I think it's a little thing that wins, because a lot of like the big companies don't do that, right? So if you can be the person to say thank you, send a thank you email, it could be a thank you text or thank you call, or like, even a handwritten letter if you want to go that far. That's a good way to win more business for the long term. So those are the steps that you'll take ideally maybe to go through. Those could be different for everybody. So it's a good idea just to kind of like have written down like, hey, these are the steps. If somebody says, hey, I'm interested in, you're having my dog come over to stay at your house for the dog kennel business, like, hey, what is the process of actually talking to that customer to get them to close the deal? It's good to have that just process written down. So that way, by the time it happens, you're ready to kind of have those conversations.
Killing it. As usual, Marco. Amazing. I think you really explained it very well. Thing I would add, just think, why do we call it the funnel? Is because at the top is all the people who might buy, all right? And we bring it down to some number that will buy. And this is where Josh talks about the closing rate. It's like you start with a bigger number and some people will buy, but not everybody who starts talking to you is going to buy. So that's kind of this idea of the funnel. And yeah, the thanking them is one of these places where it gets super personal, right? This is where it's like, they're not buying from a faceless corporation. And you can be like, you fed my children today, right? Like, I love you. You are so important to me as a customer. That's amazing. It really resonates with people. And, you really put yourself in your customer's shoes of how good of a connection. When they feel so thanked in that way, it's hard for them to change, right? It's hard for them to fire you when you're like, you're an amazing customer, there's so much positive there. What do you think, Josh?
I think you're spot on. As well as somewhere along the lines, you also want to start really kind of managing, where do people fall out in this? Where do you lose people over time? If you remember, I think was it last week, we were talking about having some type of system, even if it's paper and pencil, about where people are in the system. Where do you lose people? Do you lose people at the initial contact? Do they fall off immediately? Do you lose people after the proposal is out the door? Do you lose business after you ask for the sale? So that if you're not converting at that, call it 40 to 70, 40 to 80 kind of rate, this is kind of where you want to come back to and say, well, where am I losing people? Think about this, is if this was dating, you kind of swipe right, we match, cool. Do we get up for that first coffee date? Have we moved from coffee to an evening? Like, think about where we kind of go in that process. And at some point in time, if you realize that you never get even the coffee date, or you don't get the second date, well, what am I doing wrong the first time? mind you, what Nadav said before, if you're doing most of the talking, you're probably losing. So kind of keep that in mind here about like, as far as the funnel, as you're kind of going down the line. It's one thing to identify the steps of the sale, but it's also important to realize where do you thrive and where do you struggle in terms of where do you lose people. It's not to say that like sometimes if you lose people at a certain step in the game, that's not necessarily a bad thing either. Because ideally, yeses are great, nos are almost great, maybes kind of kill you because they take a lot of time and you still aren't anywhere closer to a sale. So if you're going to get a no, you want to get a quick no. Before I spend a lot of time and effort trying to get this sale, if I'm never going to close you, what are we doing here? So like what I'm trying to share here is that the funnel, it's not necessarily just, oh my gosh, every time I propose the solution, I don't hear anything more. That on its own is a symptom. It's not an indicator of something else. So sometimes when you propose a solution, it's like, well, gee, was I clear from the beginning what the solution looked like? Was I clear from the beginning as far as what my terms and conditions would be? Was I clear that I was like, you just want to start asking yourself questions. Just losing somebody at a certain stage doesn't mean, oh my gosh, I smelled. As well as it could very well have been that, step 5 came along and you never made the proposal. You never gave them information. That decision point was due at, Thursday at 5 o'clock and you never delivered. So there are all kinds of things that you can learn from the process. It's more a matter of, as we discussed last week, having the data allows you to evaluate what's going on so that you can increase your closing ratio overall.
Such good points, and especially about the communication too. Like you kind of get into that, Josh. If you're quoting somebody a solution, imagine you're right. I'm a customer emailing Josh, and it's like, Josh, where's the mock-up of my shirts, buddy? I'm waiting for them. No emails back from Josh. If then I have to email again, like Josh, where are you, man? That's one step too far. Half the customers are never going to even do that, right? So it's imperative that Josh is like, Nadav, I am sending you an email now to tell you I've been very backed up. I have all this chaos going on. I'm working on your proposal. It's going to come tomorrow, right? So it puts you have to communicate in a different way sometimes and really take the lead on the communication. Over communicate in some ways helps in this case. Right, Josh? You're always sending those emails. All right, I think this next one's mine, right? Finally.
If you want
right.
it.
Somebody else want to take it? I'm willing to share the.
I think it's all you.
All right,
I think
cool.
it is all you. Although you can build upon what we were talking about, the unique selling proposition again. Yeah.
I will. I can. Yeah. So what is this idea? How are you different and therefore special? What is unique and special about you? Is your van tie-dyed? Does your whole cleaning team wear crazy clothes when they come to clean? Those things make you memorable, right? Make you stand out. Maybe the local newspaper does a story about you, right? So it looks amazing on your social media. How are the ways that you operate that are special and different? Oh, I went to an amazing place. You guys can Google this past weekend, a place called Biddy and Bose Coffee shop with a social mission that they just employed developmentally disabled folks. So you go in and it's a love fest. The people that work there are so happy to have a job, right? And guess what? They have 5-star review. Nobody's leaving these folks a bad review, right? Doesn't matter if they messed up. The whole build of it is that these people are getting more patience. It's not the normal customer service rant. They're in a special category for the customers. It was an amazing place. So they have a unique proposition, right? People that go in there know this is a special place. So you want to figure out how you can do stuff like that for your business. So how do you improve your conversion rate? Be special in that way, right? Find the ways that your customers care about you being special. The listen point, again, we've hammered it on this point. If you're talking as a salesperson, you're losing. Your goal is to hear your customers, continuously be asking questions and let them go. The more they talk, the better it is for you, because that means that they trust you, that they respect you, that they want you to be listening to them. So the best sales folks are the best listeners. So getting these referrals, right? Have other people tell their friends about you. This can come from being amazing, having amazing service. Testimonials really is more of an ad type thing, right? If you're going to have an ad, if it's somebody, a customer of yours saying, oh, Josh's shirts raised the bar. We're so good. I'm so stoked. I love Josh, right? So you have that kind of add in there. That can make a big difference for folks. The before and after can be very strong, that especially for painting businesses, service businesses, concrete, all these ways that you can show the work that you're doing, that can be huge. Educating your customers in some way can be a slippery slope sometimes. But like Josh was saying, if you can educate them on the value, he demonstrated that very well, talking about the difference in the quality of the t-shirt. You can get people to wear the t-shirt more than once, higher value, willing to pay a higher price to get that. So that takes some communication and education, but it's worth it. Some other business types, it might be harder to make that sale, right? For some folks, depending on the business. And here's a biggie. How do you improve your conversion rate? Try different things. Learn which marketing, what kind of strategies do the best thing. You're advertising on Facebook. Are you posting in Facebook Marketplace? Are you leaving ads at the local cooperative with a flyer? Are you reaching out to veterans groups, right? You can do a lot of things. You can spread yourself real thin with different energy. But the best is to try to track which is good, right? So ideally, you might do one of these different crazy things every week and then see what happens. See how many people come back to you. And then you're like, wow, VFW, that's where I got to be, right? And it helps you organize your marketing and gives you direction for what actually gives you that payback in terms of new customers. And this leads into this test and measure idea, right? Figuring out what works. Also where you lose customers if people don't come back. And this is especially true with haircuts, with cleaning. You get into these businesses where you have regular rotation. If someone leaves, like what happened? And sometimes people don't want to tell you. It was in the chat earlier, there was someone was saying, that they went back to find out why they didn't get certain bids. It can be dicey because sometimes your customers, they don't want to tell you. They don't want to tell you the truth about why they didn't give you the job. So it can be hard to suss that out sometimes. But it requires for you to sometimes change what you do and try different approaches, see if you can measure it and refine it, and keep changing until you get that conversion rate high, until a bunch of the people that you quote all say yes. And another way to think about this is to figure out what your customers' pain points are. If you really put yourself in the shoes of your customers and imagine what it's like to buy from you, where are you losing them? Why are they saying no to you and saying yes to your competitor? That's the goal, is to figure that out. Do you think that's true, Josh? Marco?
Spot on.
Yeah, that's really good.
Let's take a pause here. In the chat window, folks, is what we're saying making any sense? We've been yapping and yapping and yapping here, having a grand old time. Yeah. What are you feeling here? Questions, concerns? Some of this gets into what I'll call imposter syndrome, especially given people like us who have imposter syndrome. Is basically, hey, look, I'm not worthy of charging what I think it makes, of what I think I'm worth, or I'm not worthy of, we come up with some bullshit reason as far as why we're giving ourselves away at a discount. And I think an incarceration experience also really kind of hammers that home for us personally, because for some period of time, we were told that we are worth less than the next person. So it's something to kind of be really mindful of. You're trying to build a business that's sustainable, that will take care of you and your family, and you're willing to give it away. So spot on, Chantal. It's like what you want to kind of balance is, it's not what you're worth personally, because it's never, you're a human being, you're a divine human being. There is no price for you. It's more a matter of, for the service that you provide, are you charging what is fair and reasonable for the area that you're operating in? If you price it this particular way, are you able to achieve the financial results that you want? So, yeah, sometimes the goofy thing about entrepreneurship is that we can be our worst enemy. We could talk ourselves out of sales. We could talk ourselves out of profits. We can give away money just because we like people. It's like, this is our business. If I were working for somebody else, I wouldn't make the same choice. So let's really be mindful of that.
And everybody has that imposter syndrome. The most successful people you see, people that you're like, they have it all, they have imposter syndrome. Everybody feels it. And, Josh is right that the incarceration situation, you're in a different place psychologically, right? But it's all about how we get over and the stories we tell ourselves about what we're able to do, and having that confidence feeling. And what do you need to do to get that confident feeling? And I believe in each of you on this call, you can do more way more than you think you can do. I believe in you. You can go out there and create amazing businesses. Marco and Josh believe the same thing. And that's part of this whole thing, is to tell you, I did it, like this schlub did it. You can do it. I know that you guys can. You've been through crazier stuff than I have, right? You've overcome hurdles. Starting a business should be easy, right? If you can line up some of the stuff. So I think imposter syndrome is everywhere, and yeah, it's on us to figure it out.
Okay,
That's so good. It's
so let's go to the
encouraging.
next slide. We've got two more slides that are kind of math related before we kind of go into our wrap. So don't freak out. It's a little bit of math here. But what we're trying to do is just get you into the thought process of, when we think about price and we think about sales, we think about, well, I'm going to charge whatever it is. And we come up with some kind of random way about thinking about what our pricing should be. But we don't really think about, well, if everyone pays me that, and if I sold all the way through, do I actually get to where I want to be? Am I making the money I want to be making? What will it take for me to make the money I'm making here? So this is just kind of a little goofy thing that if I have 4,000 leads and I've converted 25%, that means I've got 1,000 customers. Each customer generates 2 transactions. My average sale, $100. That's $200 of revenue. I'm sorry, that's if that's $200,000 of revenue. We're ignoring the costs and stuff like that. But what if we can improve our conversion rate by just 10%, and we go from converting at 25% to 27.5%? Suddenly, with the same cost for my lead gen, I've increased my revenue from $200K to $266,000. This is just to kind of get you in the mindset of these activities that we do matter, especially in scale. So if we're doing the same thing over and over again, like something on the simple side, if I make 3 sales calls for a given day, if I make 3 calls, just 3, well, it's certainly better than 0. It's not a lot, it's just 3 calls. It could take me all of like 5 minutes if I go to voicemail. But at the end of the week, I could make 21 more sales calls. So if I do 21 sales calls, at the end of the year, that's another 1,000 sales calls. Do you think I'm going to sell more by virtue of making more cold calls than not? Now, there might be a more efficient way for me to go about it, but if I'm doing these activities and I can get that additional lift, that additional transaction, that additional client, hey, every time I turn on, pick up the phone, I've got, they're either going to say no or they're going to say yes. I got a 50-50 shot. They say yes, cool. Let's go make some business. Let's go write some business up. It's more a matter of what's the conversion elasticity of that. If I can just get 10% more to kind of close by responding to that email when I say I'm going to, by doing what I say I want to do.
Elasticity.
The key here on like for this slide for me too, like I think where Josh is going is like our time is so limited. Like you only have a certain number of hours in the day. And so like if all of your time was spent getting 4,000 leads, like the key is like, how do you make more money? Because you don't have more time to get more leads, right? So by doing like the same amount of effort with those to get those 4,000 leads, you can make more money by being better at different parts of that funnel. That's the key thing, because time is like where like you'll never have enough of it to go like just get more and more leads. So like, how do you get better with the business that you do have? And you can do that, and you can make a lot more money by doing some of those things.
Yeah, it makes me think of Wayne Gretzky, the famous quote of you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? So you start from nothing, but whatever else you can add onto it. And I want you guys to imagine, right? You go from 25% to 27.5%. Imagine if you go to 30%, 50%. It's a huge multiplier of your revenue, right? You make a bunch more money. And this whole class is talking about how do we put some money in your pocket? How do you put some money in your pocket, right? That's the goal.
Okay, let's go to the next slide here.
Cool.
Okay, so what this is really about doing is how do we increase the number of transactions? One of the things that we do here, like I'll bust my 14-year-old kid about the use of his iPhone, that it's actually pretty darn good for things other than Fortnite. Like, you talk to somebody on the streets, they want to say, hey, wow, this sounds really good. Can you come back to me next month? Put a darn reminder in your phone. Or, hey, Siri, remind me on March 1st to call Nadav and say, hey, Can we take that? Can we carry on that next conversation? Build in the reminders so that every time you have an interaction, hey, just by chance, when can I follow up with you? I want to give you all the time you want. I don't want to pressure you. I don't want to rush you. But when can I follow up with you? Can I follow up with you in a week? And in so doing, you are now starting to build credibility about being a person of your word. And if there's anything being a returning citizen or somebody who's been judicially involved, our integrity and our word becomes our bond. So let's try and create ways, not just for our clients and our customers, but for ourselves, so that we can show for ourselves that we're good to our word. Frequent buyer perks. Hey, this is great for people that are doing home cleaning, car washes, lawn care, things that are more service driven, stuff like that. What I like to do here is for frequent buyer perks. Hey, if we're going to wash your 9th car, the 10th one's free. I try and avoid doing the first service free for people that are doing home cleaning in these kind of businesses. First service being done free, quite frankly, there's usually so much maintenance and upkeep that's been neglected that it's a really big problem. So what you really want to do is, hey, if I clean your house the first time, I'll give you the second one free. I'll give you the 4th one free, the 5th one free, not the first. You don't want to discount too much on the first, because first one, there's usually just so much darn maintenance. I mean, Chantel can probably weigh here online and say like how many horror stories she's seen. That toilet bowl hasn't been cleaned in probably 6 months. It's got the water ring on it. No one's kind of gone underneath the couch in a year. And then those are the same people that are like, hey, for free, you didn't do what you're supposed to do. You didn't go under the couch. It's like, no. Be the expert here. Educate your client base. This is where newsletters, emails, as well as that sales consultation kind of comes in, where you can be the expert and talk intelligently about what you're doing. Hey, it's great that we're talking about here about, even in cleaning, we use organic, or we use non-toxic cleaning supplies. Well, why is that important? Well, you've got a kid walking around here. He puts his hand on the counter. You don't want him, you don't want him ingesting toxic stuff. So, yeah. In businesses like that, book the next visit. Chiropractors are really, really good at this. If you call up and you have your appointment before you leave, you're not leaving that office until you have your next appointment. They're going to give you a card. They're going to give you a card saying you are going to come back here in 2 weeks for your next care, because you don't want to neglect your care. Don't leave the appointment without setting up the next appointment. Book it. And something I do a lot of, if you order shirts from me, usually I'll throw in whatever's laying around in the shop. So for example, if we've done a bunch of orders of t-shirts, I'm going to send you a hoodie. If we've done an order of hoodies, I'm going to send you a t-shirt. If we've done short sleeve, I'm going to send you long sleeve. Why? Because I've got something laying around anyway, so it's already dead inventory in my world. But you're thinking, wow, how thoughtful. He sent me something else. No, silly, I'm queuing up my next transaction for you. Hey, wow, we did t-shirts last time. Hey, it's getting colder outside. Would you like to talk about hoodies? Or, hey, we did hoodies last time. It's getting warmer. Let's talk about tees. Hey, by the way, this shirt not only comes in black, we can do pastels. Like, going beyond doing that a little bit more effort, just to say, hey, we're doing something that the next person isn't. So there's that. And increase the average sale amount, upsells, add-ons. Hey, wow. The same thing in my world. It's, hey, can we do a t-shirt? Can we do beanies? Offering one more thing. But Nadav there, hey, would you like anything to eat with this coffee? Would you like something to munch on? Chantel could be like, hey, wow, I noticed that your oven is really, really dirty. That's normally an upcharge for us. And that costs us a little bit more to do, but would you like us to clean out your oven for an additional $20? The refrigerator needs a little bit more love. Can we do that for a little $20? Same thing with impulse buys. If you have more of a retail thing, here's something by the counter. Here's the day old cookies. It's on sale for, half off. You can get involved with money back guarantees and things like that. I get a little bit careful about that, because I don't want to give the impression that on the one side, my product we would need to have that conversation. But sometimes it's like, hey, if you don't like it, we'll do it again for you. We're going to make sure that's right. But above all, do not discount. We've had this conversation a couple of times in a couple of ways today of your price is your price. know what the market's doing. And if you know the market is, then you can kind of say, well, gee, I want to be a little bit above market, a little bit below, maybe right on center, but you don't want to be here and really undercut yourself. And you don't want to be here and just be so outrageously expensive that no one wants to talk to you. Just know that in that kind of tight bubble, where do you see yourself? Hey, you know what? I want to be, my business, I want to be slightly lower than market. Slightly lower than market. I want to get volume.
It's so interesting. And a couple things that don't discount point that's so big that we're hammering on. To me, in my world, in the coffee business, the frequent buyer perk, like those frequent flyer cards with Starbucks, I don't want to do that, right? My customers are coming in, they want to spend $5 for a cup of coffee. I'm not trying to give them the 8th one free. So we've never had that. I was always really against it. And it was from that feeling of my customers want to pay anyway because they love me. So why would I give one away for free? So you got to see if your business is like that or not, but know that there's that side of it too. Depending on your clientele, that they're like, you keep the money, this feels weird, And then you have to figure out some other gift you can give them, some other way that you can make them feel special. The way we used to do it was if someone came in and they were like, oh, my dog just died, I'd be like, oh, I'm so sorry, and then, yeah, by the way, your whole order's on the house today because we love you, right? So that's that psychology concept of variable rewards. People don't know when they're going to be rewarded, so they're going to be more excited to play in that way.
The other thought too, I know we're coming up on time, so if you have questions, throw them in the chat or anything as well. But on like the increasing the average sale amount, an idea like for a cleaning business, for example, you could throw things in there that are super cheap for you to add on, like special orange scent or something like that we've talked about before, and like tell the customer, hey, I normally charge $10 or whatever for this extra good smelling orange scent, but this time I gave it to you for free. You can do like these little things where you can build that into the price to make people feel like they're getting more, and then give it to them for free the first time and then charge them for it later because they want that smell again. You can do things like that and call things out. Like if you do the extra oven cleaning just because you're there and like you're trying to win more business next time, like call it out. Like don't be afraid to tell people when you go the extra mile. And if you go the extra mile, just tell them you did it for free, because that could help you for for next time getting a repeat sale as well. That's the easiest way to get more business, is to you already put in all the work getting the customer the first time. So if you can get them to book a second service appointment, whatever it is, that's the easiest way to grow your businesses, because you've already won that person over one time.
So true. Great job, guys. All right, we got more slides, or is this the last one? All right, homework.
That's it.
We actually finished on time. Yeah.
Take a look at the sales process in the activity book. No, you don't have to turn it in. You do not have to turn any of your homework ever. If you want us to take a look at it, by all means, shoot it over. Happy to take a look. But no, the homework is really for you to kind of work on it. Please continue to work on your pitches and making sure that it gets smoother, get clarity on this. If you don't like how it's sounding, as you're going through the pitch, one of the things that you really want to do is think through, is this who I want to be? Do I want to be in this particular business? Do I see myself there? Start feeling it in your bones, start feeling it in your body. If the answer is no, well then shoot, let's do something a little different. On the sales and marketing pieces, think through let's have a process. It's always great to tweak a process once you have one. But if you don't have any metrics and you don't have a process, you don't have anything kind of like that's out there, well, you're just kind of winging it every day and reinventing the wheel every single morning. Not helpful. Ideally, if you're in a position where, hey, I wake up in the morning, I'm making my 5 phone calls to try and check things out. This is what I'm doing. I'm going to make a post to social media every Thursday. Yeah. Once you start developing good habits, then success will follow that for you. Allie is going to get the stuff out tomorrow. She'll get the recordings out next week. Same bat channel, same bat time. It'll be Nadav and I for next week. It's gonna be a really, really dry session, accounting and legal and finance and stuff like that, banking. So bring on your nerd hat. Thank you again to Allie for being the amazing woman that you are, putting everything together, making sure that all we have to do is just show up. Marco and Nadav, always great to see you, and and facilitate with you. And then to the participants that are here on the line, thank you so much for allowing us to spend our Wednesday afternoon with you. Because without you, I'd be just sitting here in front of my computer chatting up with Nadav, which don't make me do such a fate. Yeah. Did I miss anything, Allie?
No, sorry, gosh. No, I think you nailed it. Thank you, Nadav, Josh, Marco. Couldn't do it without you guys. We appreciate you volunteering your time and your knowledge to the course. To everyone else, like Josh said, next class is Wednesday. I believe that is March 1st. Yeah. So we'll see you then. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. Thanks, everyone.